Mm. Hello. What's up, YouTube folk? Live chat. There we go. How are you guys? It's been a long weekend. Long for me because I haven't been able to come on live since Friday. I'd expect it to happen like that, but weekends around here are ridiculous. Um, I thought with the kids getting bigger, it wouldn't be such a problem, but you know what they say, little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. I won't even get started on all that because it could be a lot worse. Everybody's alive and healthy, so that's really all that matters. And let's see, I got nobody here because you know what I did? I'm so silly. I set up um my live last night, and there's always something that goes wrong. Hey, Sherry. So last night I set up my live for 11:30, and I thought that I set it up for 11:30 this morning, but no, I set it up for 11:30 tonight. So I saw Annie Ruler had come in and say that she's got her alarm set, and then I'm like, wait, what? Because I had to push it back because I couldn't find my mic. Is the sound okay? How are you, Sherry? What's going on? So let's get started. Come on, silly. Why does everything have to fall apart? Did you guys ever read that book called Things Fall Apart? Let's see. Let's see. And I know that the mic does better in different spots and different whatever. Like, probably if I held it right here, it would do the best. Sound okay? I'm good. Thank you for being here and thanks for letting me know. So, yeah, let's just start talking about the hurricane. I mean, to me, that's the biggest tragedy. I mean, all of these cases that we talk about in true crime are tragic, absolutely tragic. But this freaking hurricane, what was it, like 10 days ago now? And I haven't done a body count today. I Google that every day. And I think the last time I looked, it was like 230. But I think it slowed way down over the weekend, because it's the weekend. And I think that there's a lot that they haven't counted because I've been reading about it, and they're not going to count a fatality until the medical examiner can examine and be sure that it's from the hurricane and not, say, a gunshot wound, which is smart because there's always some domestic violence idiot that tries to pull something like that, right? And that's disgusting. At the same time, it would be nice if they could give a better figure, a more accurate figure. And then once they determine, oh, well, this one died of strangulation or something horrible like that, then they can, dial the number back. I mean, heck, Hawaii had no trouble dialing the number back from what, 117 to 99 with the Lahaina fires last summer. That was ridiculous. So I just want to look and see if they've changed it. They probably have. Okay. Well, no, it hasn't been updated today, I don't think. Here's one from ABC News 4 hours ago. It just surpassed 230. Oh, it's so freaking sad. It's so sad. And it's just going to continue to climb as they continue to not be able to find people. I mean, some of these people will never be found. The reality is, some of them will be lost in the landslides. I think that's the hardest to find, the people in the landslides. And then some of them might be obliterated. Like, I'm sorry, I should have said, trigger warning. Some of them might just not be findable for those types of reasons. And I wish I could go down there and help. I'm not skilled to help. My husband would be, but I don't know that he could get the time off from his job to do that. Sad. And another one coming, right? Yes, Sherry. The other one is coming right for Florida, Hurricane Milton. And it looks like it's going to hit like pretty much the entire state. If you look at the cone, it's like unbelievable. And, they don't really have an accurate picture. Last time I checked, again, that was last night, they're thinking it's going to hit on Wednesday, but the storm surges are already starting. I know JLR is there and he's live and he's been showing boots on the ground footage. It's disastrous. There's a lot of furniture and debris lined up on the streets that it doesn't look like they're going to have time to clear it before the next one hits. So all of those articles will become projectiles. It's really serious. It's really serious. And it looks like Milton could possibly be as I don't even want to say it. It looks like it could be gaining strength last time I checked. Um, so very sad. So very sad. So let's talk about Kentucky. How about that? Boob tube squirrels. I'm already getting the top of the storm in Pennsylvania. If you can get out of the path of Milton, I recommend it. Are you serious, Shan? How on earth? Wow, that's crazy. That is wild. They don't even have that area cleaned up yet from the last one exactly. And Captain Kurt just did a good live there. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I haven't checked out Captain Kurt. I sometimes look at JLR and he's doing the boots on the ground, hoping and praying for Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee. It's unreal. I mean, this last one that came into inland like 500 miles and it was still tearing things up. I did get some of my categories wrong. I'm not an expert in hurricanes. Thank goodness I don't live in a hurricane zone. The area of Ohio that I live in, the last hurricane we had here in the Springfield, Dayton area was like 2008. And I think that was only a category 1. So I had misspoke last week when I was talking about cat 1, 2, 3. I looked them up. I'm always fact checking myself. That's one of the reasons I review my videos is I'm sitting there looking everything up as I'm listening to make sure that I didn't misspeak. And then if I did misspeak, I put it in the comments, I make a correction, and then I try to address it in my next video. So yeah, we had that category 1 back in 2008. That was the year before my husband and I moved back here. So we moved back here in 2009, but it tore stuff up. And then about 4 years ago, somewhere around there, give or take, we had a trifecta of tornadoes. So we are in a high tornado risk area, but not a high hurricane risk area. I'm sorry that you're experiencing that, Shan. When we caught the tail end of Helena last weekend, so like Saturday and Sunday, it did a lot of damage around here, but it wasn't even a hurricane anymore. I had misspoke thinking that it still was like a downgraded hurricane, but I don't even think it was a cat 1. I think it was right below that. It was pretty heavy duty. It was severe for here, but not severe at all relative to what other people have experienced. And I think Florida in the next, like today, tomorrow, they're supposed to be getting like at least 4 inches of rain a day. It's gonna be really severe. The storm surge starts before the hurricane hits, so, I'm thinking that they're already hit with that. Can you guys confirm from what you saw on Captain Kurt and such? Um, and be safe. Yeah, everybody be safe. It is so freaking tragic. Squirrel says, I'm not worried about storm aspect, but these ramped up hurricanes in sync in October. Tis a rare coincidence a week apart. Yeah, I think that I'm not sure if it's like November 1st is the end of hurricane season or November 15th. Sometime in November is the end of hurricane season. But yeah, I mean, here we are, October 7th. And that last one was Helena was like the strongest one in our United States since Katrina, right? I believe that's what I've been reading. I do like to keep up with these things. It's just insurmountable the tragedy and the loss of life, the loss of property. Of course, property can be replaced, life can't. But I just can't imagine having everything you own underwater. I was cruising through Asheville, North Carolina area a little while ago on my way back from the East Coast. I cannot express how different the area is now from then. So much devastation. Yeah, they're saying that these towns, like, I don't know about Asheville, but the smaller towns around there are essentially gone. Like the entire town is like washed away. I know there's probably parts of Asheville that are obliterated like that because Asheville got hit really hard. But yeah, when you've got those Appalachian Mountains and the rivers and, you know, buckets of rain, rivers of rain falling out of the sky, man, Mother Nature. And yeah, it's hard to say if these are natural occurrences. I know there's a lot of people on YouTube stating that it's weather manipulation. I'm not educated enough to know one way or the other. Um, it is kind of weird that the area hit hardest by Helena or Helene is where all the lithium is in the mountaintops, the Appalachian Mountains, right? So we know lithium is like the new gold, right, Shan? Going directly west to east like that twice. Last one was an event every 1,000 years. Now this one has only happened once in 100 years. The timing is uncanny, Shan. Sorry, I haven't been around much, guys. I've been pretty sick. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, boob tube. My dog is dealing with cancer, so we're dealing with cancer and a lot of appointments with the dog. So I empathize with you, boob tube. And yeah, I haven't been my normal YouTube and self. Um, I try to keep up with what I can, and I've been keeping up with my yoga. That's really important, but taking care of the dog. So tomorrow we have another consultation, and then we'll get the surgery scheduled. We're gonna have a tripod. It's sad, but it's sad. It's not as sad as if she were to lose her life early from the cancer on her leg. It's terrible, absolutely terrible. Um, so I hope you're feeling better, boob tube. The valleys turn into lakes. Yeah, these rivers, I mean, I'm not too far from the Ohio River, and I just look at the Ohio River and I just can't imagine if we got hit with that much liquid falling out of the sky. It gives that old movie from the 70s, Liquid Sky, a whole nother dimension. You know that movie, you guys, Liquid Sky? It's about rugs. It's about rug abuse. It's about like heavy duty, the H. It's a terrible movie. I mean, educational, but disgusting. Very, very traumatic to watch. I saw it when I was a teenager. It was sort of like Scared Straight, basically. Anyway, I've always thought of that Liquid Sky title as like a rug thing, but it gives it a whole different perspective. And yeah, hope you're feeling better. We have been engaging in weather wars since NAM. It is possible. Um, EMFs are no joke, nor are weather modding planes. Remember that big glitter conspiracy? I wonder if weather modding isn't the big private buyer nanometals. I don't know what the big glitter conspiracy is, Shan, if you want to share. I have no idea. I mean, I could Google it, but I don't like to get on my phone and get my brain gets hijacked. Thanks, Jazz and Shan. Appreciate it. Been getting my backside kicked for over a year now. It comes and goes, costly as well. Yeah, it is so hard dealing with health issues. And, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So definitely, we all have to take care of ourselves and do what we can to make sure we're getting our rest. I mean, rest is the most important thing. I know with the vertigo that I've been battling, rest and agua are the main things my physician tells me. And I see a specialist next week. Finally. By then it'll probably be resolved, right? Still having to take the Zofran. Glitter, aluminum, metallized, I can't even say these words, Shan. Polyethane terephthalate. Um, yeah, so I've heard that they can fly into the eye of a hurricane. I heard this from a reliable source that lives in hurricane capital, Florida. That they can fly airplanes into the eye of the hurricane and drop a bunch of salt, and that's supposed to do something helpful, to make it, I don't know, go a different direction or make the damage not as bad. Are you guys familiar with that? Dropping a bunch of salt into the eye of a hurricane. They flew into the middle of Helene twice. Oh, did they, squirrels? When it was hitting land or before it hit land? Wow. See, I've been paying so much attention, but I haven't even heard about that. There's just so much information and so much news. And then it is kind of weird, in my opinion, and everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of starting a conversation, hoping to open up a discussion and learn something and be educational. And all my videos are made for YouTube, and it's an entertainment platform. I think it's kind of odd that they just happened to arrest P. Diddy right around the same time as Hurricane Helene. I mean, what are the chances? They raided his property, I think, in March. So they waited 7 months, 6 months, 6 months. And then it's like, that is what has taken the headline of the news mostly, it seems. People are more interested in the salacious details of the celebrities than they are the real life tragedies that real people are having to face. Let's see. Thanks, Jazz and Shan. Appreciate it. Okay, I said that one right. I just didn't highlight it. Yeah, I know. It's crazy how expensive healthcare is, even with insurance. It's insane. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely stupid, in my opinion. That's the nasty shite, Shan. They flew into the middle. Okay, I missed. Sorry, I missed those ones before that, but here now I'm caught up. Yes, they've dumped dry ice in them as well. Huh, what does the dry ice do, if you don't mind my asking? Glitter X, the largest producer of glitter, has a multi-billion-dollar private government buyer. There's theories on who it is. Yeah, distraction, Sherry. I have heard some of the glitter stuff. Actually, you're making me jog my memory, Shan. So yeah, there's just like one glitter producer in the globe pretty much. Like all the glitter comes from the same factory, maybe? I mean, I heard about that just in the last year or two. So, my theory isn't like others. I think it's used for weather modding with EMFs. It's also human genocide modifying. If they can't get toxic metals into you one way, they will another. Makes it hard, right? Wow. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. There's a lot to have to keep ourselves safe from, right? I'm the only one to hit the like button, Jackie Bushable. Thank you. Um, so yeah, if you hit refresh, then you'll see if that's accurate or not, Jackie. But yeah, it looks like you just got here, so maybe that is accurate. I don't know. No like. Very true, Shan. Deagle report. All right. So we are up to 3. Woohoo! Thanks, lovely folks. I almost said ladies, but then I don't know. I'm not going to call Shan that because, our girl Shan, I don't know that lady is something you want to be called. And then boob tube, we decided that maybe I would just refer to them as they and them. I forgot, but hit it now. Thank you. So there's 4. Woohoo! I don't think I can hit it. If I could, I would. But so yeah, it seems like the news focusing on the P. Diddy tragedy is trying to silence a lot of the information about the hurricane fatalities. And then these people that are missing and people that are having trouble getting rescued, having trouble getting found. I mean, how sad is that if people survive, but then they perish after surviving the worst of it? I'm sure we're going to continue to hear rescue stories for a very long time. Right after I moved away from Washington State, there was a landslide in a tiny little town. I think it was called Osla, like Osla, something like that. A really small town right at the base of the Cascades. And the landslide, I forget the number of fatalities, but it was bad. I mean, I remember there was like a whole family, a mother and her young children, the whole house got buried. And then, Florida, you've got sinkholes that happen like in people's bedrooms where there's a sinkhole and the bed goes into the earth with them in it. I mean, it sounds insane. It sounds like the Twilight Zone, but these things happen. And right now, they're dealing with that times 1,000, times a million, times a billion. I mean, gotta go start canning tomatoes. Gotta get more sauces made. I'll be listening in. Love, 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 and many blessings. Oh, I love that you're canning tomatoes. My grandmother always did that. So you remind me of my Mary Jane grandmother. She was the bomb, man. She was the bomb diggity. And her tomato preserves were so delicious. They tasted like strawberry jam. I don't know if you guys have ever had that, but she had so much tomato to take care of that she would do all types of things, including the preserves. So yeah, have a really good one, Shannon. Don't get burned. I know that's very demanding and dangerous to do. So yeah, I did want to shift gears over to Kentucky, which I think Kentucky is where the hurricane uh, quit being a hurricane and just became like the remnants of a hurricane by the time it came up here into Ohio. But we all know that they've got that crazy situation where the sheriff shot the judge and they had the preliminary hearing last week. And I watched a lot of YouTube about that as it was happening, but it wasn't until over the weekend that I caught this part. Have you guys heard this? That the sheriff, after the preliminary hearing, said that they're trying to take my wife and daughter. And I don't know the exact quote, and I don't know if it was like people thought that he meant kidnapping or what, but I've got a feeling that what is going on there is just so much more than what we've heard about. So much more. And, as soon as it happened, I thought of that movie, what's it called? Where the guy shoots the um the perp in the courthouse. What is that movie called, you guys? Something time. Why is my brain so dead? Um, Time to Kill. It's so funny. I pick up my phone. It's like I need a computer chip. I didn't even finish typing. I don't even know if I started with the T when I thought Time to Kill. So I'm gonna go ahead and look that up. Time to Kill. Morgan Freeman, right? Um, Came out in 96. Samuel Jackson. And then Matthew McConaughey, Sandra Bullock, Kevin Spacey, Donald Sutherland, Kiefer Sutherland, Ashley Judd, Oliver Platt. So those are the main people. Um, and so it was Samuel Jackson who did the unaliving, and it's a book by John Grisham. Anyway, I thought of that movie immediately when this happened. I mean, because this happened in the courthouse, and most courthouses have metal detectors and have guards, most, if not all. And, this sheriff might have been responsible for keeping that courthouse safe, but then he's the one doing um, the the shooting. So I don't know how the cookie crumbles there, but it seems like that's the type of thing that might have been happening, that the judge was going to be able to get away with it because he's the judge and the sheriff wasn't having it. I mean, and then that person who's the lead detective not really knowing anything, saying that he doesn't really know anything about the case and that they didn't take the sheriff's daughter's phone into evidence. And man, how is she doing? That 17-year-old. That's just effing crazy. Part of me almost wants to just go down there to that small town and just hang out and be a fly on the wall. But I don't do that type of thing. So um he said kidnap. Oh, did he use the word kidnap, Jackie Bushable? Because I thought maybe people were that they were trying to take the wife and kids, and then people were interpreting that as kidnap. Like maybe basically infidelity with the wife. And were they, or was he um I don't want to be judgmental at all, but was that a delusion of the sheriff's? Or were they actually doing things that led him to believe that? Corruption and rugs and trafficking in Kentucky. Yeah, Kentucky's really bad with that. I mean, those things are everywhere. Historically, Kentucky's been very bad with that as long as it's probably been a state in the United States of America. I think part of it is just because of the difficulty of being so mountainous. It's beautiful, but it's a hard life, and people historically, it's been a very poor state, and when there's poverty, there's more crime, basically, right? I mean, crime happens with the super wealthy too, like P. Diddy is a perfect example. But, when people are desperate, they'll do whatever it takes to feed their families, and not making excuses for it. I'm just saying that Kentucky has had a series of problems. I mean, like 30 years ago, it turned into kind of a good thing because, like, their educational system was so defunct and messed up, and people from Kentucky were typically not educated, like illiterate. And they revamped their entire education system from the inside out. Like, that might have been 30 or 35 years ago, and it became, I think, one of the better educational systems as far as states in our country. So, sometimes things have to get worse before they can get better, and that's a good example with the schools. I don't know about the corruption in that county down there, but yeah, I mean, I see a lot of that everywhere. And to me, it seems the smaller the town, the worse the corruption can be, because there's not as much checks and balances. Like, yes, of course, you have corruption in the bigger cities, but you also have a lot more people that have to answer to each other. So you still have it, but it seems like it's easier to get away with in smaller communities. Yes, Sherry, have extended family near Lexington, the stories you hear. Yeah. Yeah, Lexington is big with the tobacco industry. You guys remember that movie that Russell Crowe was in right around the year 2000? The Inside Man or The Insider? I always get them confused because there's two movies, one with each of those titles. Um, and let's see, Insider, Russell Crowe. And that was based on a true story. Really good movie. I think it's The Insider. Yeah, that's the one. 1999. Um, Excellent. Al Pacino is in it. So, big tobacco company and lots of corruption. Amazing movie. Just looking to see who else is in it. Anybody else I recognize? Basically, just Russell Crowe and Al Pacino are the only two I really recognize, but that was excellent. It was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Actor in Leading Role for Russell Crowe. And yeah, he should have gotten it, in my opinion, but I think that was the year that they gave it to Tom Hanks for the volleyball for Castaway. And then the next year they gave it to Russell Crowe for Gladiator, which I always like to say he did look really good in a skirt, but I think that that was really trying to make up for not giving it to him the year before, when they wanted to give a third Best Actor award to Tom Hanks. That was weird. I mean, and I saw that movie when it came out too, Castaway. That was the year of a lot of good movies. That was like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Castaway, and then The Insider. I think those were all in competition with each other, and they were all excellent. Anyway, back before I had kids, I was a total movie buff, in case you couldn't tell. But then 2002, I had my first kid, and I've kind of fallen off that wagon ever since. Hard to keep up. Um, he did say that word. Wow. Thank you, Jackie Bushable. That's really good to know. That is wild. That is so wild. And yeah, when are we going to get clarification on this? Unbelievable. I mean, that community has got to be rocked, because when you have a town that small, everybody knows everybody. Seriously. And then the DA's sister being married to the deceased judge's sister. Wait, the DA is married to the sister. I said that wrong. The district attorney is married to the sister of the judge's sister. So the deceased judge, his widow, her sister is married to the DA. Just really wild stuff. Anyway, we haven't talked about Enrique Delgado Garcia in a while and all that corruption up there in Massachusetts. I was focused on that with the Karen Reed case, with Enrique, and with that adorable little tiny 23-year-old whose name I'm totally blanking on. You'll have to forgive me. Sandra Birchmore. Wow. Okay, brain, turn on and work, please. The teenager has been like sucking the life out of me, so I have a good excuse, but still, I try not to let him. I try to keep him at bay. He is just like bound and determined. I call it mental gymnastics because he's just always coming at me. And it started this morning before 8. So great way to start a Monday, right? Not. Anyway, Sandra Birchmore, Karen Reed, and then Enrique Delgado Garcia. All that going on in the Boston area, just outside of Boston, kind of southwest of Boston. And then the situation there in Kentucky, and then the situation with Hurricane Helene, and then now Hurricane Milton. And then the whole hurricane with P. Diddy, and we just keep hearing all of these people that are shaking in their boots, and it's just like, is this going to be another Epstein kind of thing? Like, the Epstein list never became public, and P. Diddy, I mean, he's got so much dirt on so many people. I just can't imagine that there's really going to be a flushing out of all of that abuse and corruption. I really can't imagine. I hope I'm wrong, but it just seems like too many people would have to go down that are too powerful, too wealthy, too well known. Okay. Fred Field, hello. Jackie Bushable says, I think he snapped when he seen his daughter's phone number and possibly a picture on the phone. Well, there was a lot of talk that the sheriff might have been trying to call his daughter from his phone and she wasn't picking up. And then he called from the judge's phone and she did pick up. So yeah, he saw something on the phone, and maybe that was just her phone number with her name, or maybe it was a photo, maybe, who knows, but the public, we might not ever know. I mean, what is shared in court is probably going to be a whitewashed version of the real truth. That's usually how these things go. But I know we're all extremely curious. So we haven't talked much about Micah, and then also the Idaho 4, you guys. So Micah Miller's case is just, I think, directly tied in with Christopher Skinner, the guy in the wheelchair who drowned in that swimming pool. Was that 2 years ago? And he had just gotten that new wheelchair that was like an all-terrain wheelchair so that he could go to the beach and just, more outdoorsy stuff with the wife and kids. And it was, I think, $10,000 or $20,000, and they did a lot of fundraising with like country musicians that were publicly doing benefit concerts and stuff like that. So they had this really amazing wheelchair that would be controlled with a remote control by Chris. And then I've just always figured that it was probably hijacked and the remote control could have been um, what took him into the water, not by his own mistakes and not by mechanical failures on the wheelchair motor or the electronics part, but just on criminal malfeasance. So, I mean, it just seemed too convenient, like that this couple that's allegedly, John Paul and Susie Skinner allegedly having an ongoing affair. And then Chris Skinner confronts John Paul and says, "Stay away from my wife and kids." Maybe similar to the whole Kentucky thing. And then 2 weeks later, he's deceased in a pool. And then there's no mention of who it was that he was allegedly meeting for the chess game that he was allegedly there to play. I mean, the whole thing is just bizarre. And then we know that JP has all of these law enforcement officials in his back pocket or maybe even in his front pocket, and he's probably got dirt on them that they cannot ever risk him getting mad and outing them for whatever it is that he has. I mean, doesn't he seem a lot like P. Diddy? Like he probably has tapes. I think it was Veronica Adams with her Jokester channel, who was the first one I heard calling him JP Diddy. And I think that that's really fitting. But I mean, for all we know, he was rugging Micah and doing the Diddy types of like freak off things. I've wondered that from jump. The second this whole thing went down and was on the streets of YouTube, it kind of felt like that to me, in my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. Did anyone catch the new trafficking channel last night by Rory Thou Shalt Not Kill? It was excellent, but so sad. But the increased awareness is much needed. I did not catch the new trafficking channel. No. But yeah, trafficking, I think a lot of people are trafficked and don't even realize they're being trafficked, especially if they're given the date rape rug and then they have no memory of it. But, if they go to these parties willingly and they're drinking alcohol willingly, and then they don't have their cognizance if they're getting rugged in their drinks, but they're going to take it upon themselves and say, well, I'm the one who went to the party. I'm the one who drank that. And, I mean, maybe they wanted to do some things with a person or some people, but then things went, way out of bounds and way out of control. So, I mean, it gets really hard to prosecute these cases, especially when people don't remember what happened. But then we can thank P. Diddy being like R. Kelly that they just can't stop themselves from making these tapes. And do they make the tapes so that they can relive their perversion, or are they making the tapes so that they can get rich off of them, or both? Probably both would be my guess. And so that they can blackmail people too. Big time, right? I remember listening to a Soiled Rock sermon where JP was talking about King David seeing another man's wife and sent him off to get illed in battle so he couldn't have her. Yeah, he did a ton of weird sermons, didn't he? I mean, that guy is really really bizarre. Truly bizarre. JP compares himself a lot to King David, and he compares himself to Hitler too. Just saying. Yeah, he's a monster. I mean, just that whole situation when he was 19 and ran that 19-year-old woman over with his car and drug her, or was she on the hood of the car? But he hit her twice. And then when he got that expunged a few years ago so that he could buy weapons, and then Micah just happens to lose her life to a gunshot wound. Whoa. Freaking crazy. Trafficking the truth, true crime. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Wow. Yeah. So, one of my favorite content creators finally did another video about Idaho 4. Here I've got Annie Ruler was nice enough to share the Crime Circus stickers with me that she got. So Drip Drop did another Idaho 4 video just a couple days ago. It had been a very long time. And I'll put a link to that in the description. But you guys know how I feel about the Idaho 4 case. It's a dumpster fire crap show, in my humble opinion. And then the fact that they burned the residence, the 1122 King Road. I said burned. That's a good Freudian slip. The fact that they bulldozed it down. But yeah, burning down the house, right? Talking Heads or AJR burned the house down. I'll put links to both of those in my description. But I mean, metaphorically, they burned it down, but they flattened it, they bulldozed it, and then to me, that's destruction of evidence. And just because they're law enforcement and they have the authority to do that, it doesn't necessarily give them the authority to break the law and destroy evidence. But how are we going to get Homeland Security or the U.S. Marshals or the feds to intervene? What a dumpster fire. And then let's talk about our dear Kylie, our favorite dumpster fire, right? Ugh. I mean, I just feel so much compassion for that little girl. So much compassion for her that no one in her entire town is fighting for her that we know of. Her family, her friends, her quote unquote friends. I mean, as we look back now 2 years later and look at how relaxed people like Jägermeister were and Scammy and some other key players, how relaxed they were about the fact that she was missing. Um, so Kate Cunio didn't seem too stressed out about it. They're like, oh, we'll find her. However, Mags was really stressed out about it. And the Catfish crew, the Hamburglar and the fight boy that was allegedly Scammy's boyfriend, those three in particular looked extremely stressed. And then there was that whole thing with Chucky. What's Chucky's last name, you guys? Charlie, the one with the cancer, the trans person with cancer. Charlie Holderman, is that right? Holderman. I think that's it. But that was really truly bizarre. Like that was the person. Yeah, thank you, Shan Holderman. Good job, you guys. That was the person that Zanime said she was visiting. Obviously, Zanime is a fixer. I believe that SF investigates as a fixer as well. check it. Skid mark. I don't know what he is. I don't think he's a fixer. That's for sure. More like a breaker, right? But whatever happened to Charlie Holderman? I mean, allegedly he was in a bad car accident. Allegedly he was in the hospital. Allegedly, what, he fell off the face of the earth? I mean, any updates there, you guys? Yes, it was good to see Drip Drop on again. Yeah, yeah. I can only imagine the threats he gets, you guys. A dumpster fire, just like Kylie Fred says. Everyone else failed her. So I found a brand new channel that I shared with you guys a few days ago in my last video on Friday called My Humble Opinion. And he put out a survey over the weekend asking people, asking his viewers, and I think he just hit 1,000. So that's very cool. And he was asking his viewers what they would like him to focus on. And I mentioned Kylie Rodney. I don't know if he'll pick that up or not. You know, I've tried to get Drip Drop to cover Kylie Rodney. There's a few people that I've tried to get on board with the investigation of Truckee. Cowboy Chuckster. Hey Bex, how are you? And yeah. So Maddie and Xana, they both had parents that were arrested for rugs and in that same county. And Xana's mother had been arrested with a lot of fentanyl, allegedly, like a lot. And then was it Maddie's biological father and her stepmom that had both been arrested for, I don't know if they got arrested for possession or intent to distribute, but Xana's mother definitely got arrested for distribution. And then Demetrius and Emma and that whole thing. Like, it seems to me so obvious in Idaho that it's a lot of crime involving the university, involving the trafficking, involving the law enforcement. And then you've got the Pullman PD and you've got the Wazoo Police Department. And I guess Don Daniels just got recently promoted to be the new police chief for Wazoo. Oh, man. So Jenkins retired again a second time. And Jenkins, I think he was from LA. I think his initial law enforcement experience was from Los Angeles before he went to Pullman. I don't think he'd been with the Pullman PD that long when he retired there so that he could get recruited by Wazoo right after all this happened. But we got to remember that Jenkins was the guy who interviewed the criminal defendant, and never, ever, ever have they ever said what the outcome was of the interview and who filled the fellowship, the paid fellowship that Koberger was one of 4 finalists for. So I really think that he was hired to be in that police department. I think that it was his position in the Pullman PD, and that he got caught up in some craziness with somebody like the lead detective who had a master's degree, and then Koberger's working on his doctorate degree. So some competitiveness there and some hurt feelings or insults or jealousy or whatever. You know, you got to remember too that the the whole thing with Kopaka, with the lead detective's brother and him both being um, what are they called? Paratroopers in the army. So the lead detective was in the 82nd Brigade, as was Kopaka. And then the brother, Kyle Payne, was in a different brigade, but his deployment in Iraq, his last deployment in Iraq, overlapped. No, his first deployment in Iraq, I think, overlapped with Kopaka's last deployment in Iraq. And then that was where Kopaka got head injured, right? He got a traumatic brain injury and then had a medical discharge from service. And then, all the people that were there when the SWAT team was there exactly a month after the incident at 1122 King Road, freaking crazy. And I think the person who allegedly made the hit, the sharpshooter, I think he was a sergeant for Wazoo. Oh man, I'm pretty sure he was a sergeant for Wazoo, and because I looked him up, and he was like not paid the six figures that all the other sergeants there were paid. He'd only made like 30,000 the year that I looked him up for, which was probably 2022. So then I'm like, is he part time? Like, usually sergeants aren't part time, but maybe he had just been promoted to sergeant. But still, if he was, it just doesn't make any sense that his salary was like 30,000 and all the other sergeants were like 100,000, and that the department, the Washington State University department, seemed to be really top heavy with sergeants, like a lot of sergeants. So Dawn Daniels was one of those, and then she held down the fort when the assistant chief, the chief, and the captain, I think, when they all took an administrative leave or were put on an administrative leave for all of the sexual exploitation of the one officer, Matthew Kurt. And remember, those three were forced to resign somewhere around July of 2022. Matthew Kurt didn't resign until November 4th. So then when they came out with that whole fake letter of, I don't know, the reprimand for Koberger, the whole fake letter that Gigi from Arkansas said she had the copy of, and then Ashley Banfield ran with that. That whole thing was so freaking fake and phony. And how come Ashley Banfield has never had to answer to that? But they were trying to say that, oh, Koberger would have had reason to, be all pissed off and want to retaliate and have retribution and act out violently, when it's like, so would Matthew Kurt, and so would the people in the department that he got fired. And let me just say this, because I don't think I've said this in a very long time, and I don't think I've said it enough, that the whole thing with them getting put on the administrative leave, the command staff, was the school, Wazoo, said, oh, well, they disciplined him internally and never informed the school of what went on. And that's what they got disciplined for, was not notifying the administration, the higher management of Washington State University, allegedly. But in my experience, that's just the university protecting themselves. So they're trying to insulate themselves by saying, oh, well, we didn't know. And to prove we didn't know, we're going to, punish these three people in the command staff. I don't buy it. I don't believe that the university didn't know anything about that, because Matthew Kurt was involved with that other situation from the Pullman PD with the other dirtbag whose name I always forget, um, because he's just not even worth remembering. Uh, let's see. I always get a brain block on him. Dan Hargraves, okay? He was a 19-year veteran of the department. He was arrested and charged with custodial misconduct, Class C felony. The case stems from the alleged misconduct involving a Washington State freshman that took place last spring, whenever this was written. And so the Pullman Police Department has a assault investigative team that works with survivors of assault to make their interactions with law enforcement and support services as safe and respectful as possible, blah, blah, blah. The program's goal is to ensure that survivors' needs and boundaries are respected, blah, 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 because the case was basically, I think, a hung jury, and then the victim could not move forward with going through another trial. And so he basically was just relieved from his duties, but didn't get any jail time. But the night that Dan Hargraves assaulted this poor young freshman who had diabetes, type 1 diabetes, and she was extremely intoxicated. Matthew Kurt and Dan Hargraves were together with her, you guys. So when Matthew Kurt got all the command staff fired at Wazoo, and then um, Jenkins has the same thing going on basically in his department with Dan Hargraves and Matthew Kurt, but then they have Jenkins come over to their department to look like the good guy cleaning up the mess. I just can't stand the effery. I can't stand the whitewashing and the party line and people buying into it. And yeah, I mean, back then when Dawn Daniels held down the fort and was doing 4 jobs, was doing her sergeant job and allegedly all 3 of the other jobs, the captain, the assistant chief, and the chief, she held down the fort, but then they hire Jenkins and they just put her in as assistant chief for a couple of years before they promote her to chief. Typically, when you're in a position temporarily like that as an interim, you're the next in line to become permanent. And did they ever make Jenkins permanent? Because every time I checked on Jenkins' status, he was still interim. So he was interim there at the Wazoo for what, like a year and a half or more? I don't know. That seems really fishy. Like to go past a year as interim is pretty weird, in my opinion, in my experience. Stephen in the Soto case supposedly had head trauma too. Yes, Fred Field, thank you for bringing that up, because I don't effing care. There are so many people with head traumas that don't do the kind of disgusting stuff that he did. For his parents to bring that up is kind of like an excuse, like, oh well, it must be something from the head trauma. Like, that is just so insulting to anybody who's lived with a head injury, with a traumatic brain injury. And yeah, sad that he was run over by a pickup truck when he was a kid, or whatever the story is. Unreal. Absolutely unreal. That does not make people become predators, period. It really upsets me when, like I said, that's really insulting to people who already have the challenge of living with a traumatic brain injury. And then, it just contributes to the stigma, really. But thank you for bringing it up, Fred, because yeah, for anybody who doesn't know about that, that's a piece of that case. And that poor little girl, I think I told you guys that in my last video that it's my opinion that possibly Maddie's mother, Jen, was hoping that she would get her ex-boyfriend back with her daughter out of the picture, that she was hopeful of that. I still hold on to that opinion. I also still hold on to the opinion that I think that that Maddie could have conceived a baby. And I don't know that we'll ever know the answer to that. I really don't. I know that, like, as far as officially, she wasn't preggers. Officially, like in, I guess, in the autopsy I've heard, and the family has said, "Oh no, no, she wasn't preggers." But it's like, well, did you even know she was being abused? Because you wouldn't necessarily know these things. And it's just a lot of it just adds insult to injury. It's really hard for the public to comprehend a 12-year-old getting impregnated by her mother's boyfriend. So Maddie would have been 12 when she became pregnant, if she was indeed pregnant, because that was like um, a month before she turned 13, going back. So, Fred says, I think that after her 13th birthday, so decided she was not going to take it anymore and told him. Right. So her 13th birthday party, I guess, was a couple of days after her actual birthday. And yeah, it could be that she wasn't, um, that she was standing up for herself. And it could be that they had to hide a pregnancy. And I've heard stories that she had a crush on somebody and that Steven was jealous of that. So sad that when women take their boyfriend, husband over their own child. And Sherry, it happens a lot. I think it happens more than a lot of us can wrap our minds around. Because again, we don't hear about it. But from the stories I know in real life, it happens a lot that the mom either puts blinders on, sticks her head in the sand, or is even part of facilitating like a Handmaid's Tale kind of thing. I mean, yeah, definitely putting their boyfriend or husband, if you can call them that, these disgusting monsters. It happens way too often. And sometimes probably subconsciously you know, that the moms are just in denial that it's even happening, but they know. They just don't want to know. I just can't. I really, my heart breaks for that little girl, and my heart breaks for anyone in a situation like that. And I've told you guys about my dear friend that unalived herself when she was 19 and I was 20, and she had had that going on from the time she was very young from a family member. And yeah, by the time I was friends with her when she was 12, 11 or 12, I was 12, but she was a little bit younger than me. Um, I don't think it was happening anymore because she was um, asserting herself, asserting her will. Um, but yeah, I think that there is kind of a magic that can happen around that age and becoming a teenager overnight, Fred. I think that's a really valid point that it could very well be that she was standing her ground and saying that, yeah, I'm not going to be having this happen to me anymore. And maybe she threatened to tell people. I mean, that's what part of what snowballed into costing Sandra Birchmore her life is that she had threatened to tell her monster perpetrator. Um, she threatened him that she would tell his wife if he didn't do what she wanted. And, these are such dangerous games to play. I mean, men can typically easily overpower a woman, and when you have that kind of age difference and size difference, and um, when you've got law enforcement skills, it's pretty easy to cover things up and make something look like a self harm when it's not self harm, when it's red rum. That happens a lot, and what all of this shines a light on is how often does it happen that we never hear about it, you guys? We never hear about it. Like all this stuff with Puff Daddy. I mean, this kind of thing has been going on and on and on. Remember that song Hotel California and what they say that song is really about? I mean, the Titanic type of ritualistic abuses and the sacrifices, that stuff is very, very real, and that's been going on and on and on, not just in Hollywood. Heck, in Springfield, Ohio, I'll say it. I know for a fact that it's happened right in my hometown. It's got a long history. You know, that the whole thing with the cats and dogs is ridiculous. But there's a lot of skeletons in the closet of probably every city. But I know for a fact, I know people who've survived, survivors from that type of activity in Springfield, Ohio. So, and yeah, their families were the ones who did it to them. Their mother, their father, their grandparents, all were involved. So even if Jen did not take place in the actual unaliving, Jen, like Lindsay, tried to cover it up and get him a lawyer. Yeah, she's one sick puppy. And hopefully, after they're done prosecuting him, they'll get busy prosecuting her. Whatever deal she's cut, if they find out that she's committed these types of crimes, she can still be held accountable. It's just that they take them one at a time. So they need to wait until the ink dries with Steven Soto and they're done with him before they think about anything like that. I mean, hopefully it won't be like another Kessinger situation like in the Watts case. And yeah, I totally agree with you, Fred. I totally agree with you. So, yeah, I'm so happy to see you guys. It was so hard going 72 hours without a video. Thank goodness I did a really long one on Friday, so I was able to get through the weekend. But I didn't want to do too long of one today. We're just about an hour and 15 minutes, so maybe we'll wrap up. And, one of the reasons I like to do them routinely is because when I'm in the habit of it, it's easier for me just to roll with it and do it, Like I feel very rusty when I am doing a live and I haven't done one in a few days. So I apologize for having a rusty brain, rusty and crusty. But yeah, sometimes, it's just hard to come up with the ideas when I'm on camera because I, have a little excitement, anxiety, a little bit of both. And yeah, my brain is usually firing pretty ferociously. And then I try to kind of chill when I'm on live because I used to just really, I think, talk too fast and not finish the thoughts that I was saying enough. I'm trying to up my game. And I appreciate you guys assisting me in that by participating and watching and liking and chatting and all of that good stuff. So thanks so much, friends. Sending you much love, sending you much light, and I hope you have a really good rest of your day. It's just about um, almost 1:20 in the afternoon of Monday, October 7th. And let's pray for all the hurricane victims from Helene and the impending doom of Milton. Man, such craziness, absolute insanity. And let's pray for justice. Justice will prevail, truth and integrity, and, you know, people getting their comeuppance. The people that are hurting people need to get their comeuppance, and the people who have been hurt need to get their comeuppance in a opposite type of way, right? I hope things go okay with your dog. Thank you. And yeah, Sherry, both of them need to be prosecuted. And Fred Field, right before that, says her story changed too many times to go free. Right. Your story can't change even once, right? Not even once. And I think everybody's story in Kylie Rodney's case changed. I think her mom's story, I think Jägermeister's story, I think Scammy's story, I think everybody in Truckee had more than one story with Kylie Rodney. And yeah, thanks for reminding me, Sherry, that so tomorrow with my dog appointment, it might be hard for me to come on live, but I will do my best. Hopefully, I'll see you guys tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then certainly the next day. And yeah, once we get that leg surgery scheduled, I think I'll feel a little bit better. You know, I just want resolution with that terrible situation. And yeah, if she's a tripod, then it'll be our first pet that's a tripod, and hopefully she'll get to keep one leg. Otherwise, we'll have to do one of those little doggy wheelchair things. Then I can make my YouTube channel about that, right? Those are cute, the little animals with the wheelchair when they don't have their back legs. And yeah, losing a back leg is going to be a lot easier than losing a front leg, I think. So thanks, Sherry, for the well wishes. You guys take care. Have a really good afternoon. Try to get some fresh air and sunshine and good nourishment. Stay hydrated. Relax. Take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself and kind to others. And we will see ya tomorrow, hopefully. Thanks again for being here. And love and light to everybody. Love you guys.